Welcome to Admissions Live, the weekly web show for college admissions professionals. We're part of the Higher Ed Live network, where we're dedicated to digital development and professional empowerment. We've got Justin Bayer and Kelsey Donohue on tonight's show, and we're talking about what will make or break a college visit in 2012. I want to get right to the show, but I can't do that without giving a huge thanks to the sponsors that make Admissions Live possible. Admissions Live is sponsored by Welcome to College, who believe it's all in the visit and have created web and mobile applications to help institutions measure and manage their most critical recruitment tool, the college visit. Travel season is underway, and Marisa from the Welcome to College team has written a great blog post about making the most of the college fair season. Check out her perspective on the Welcome to College blog. Admissions Live is sponsored by Zinch. Zinch is the preferred destination by over 3 million students to research schools and scholarships and to showcase themselves as more than a test score. Over 1,000 colleges and universities around the world partner with Zinch to attract and enroll best fit students on the largest college search social network in the world. To learn more about Zinch, email outreach@zinch.com or tweet @socialadmission. Admissions Live is sponsored by Integral, the creators of the Schools app on Facebook. Check out their webinar series about how private social networks can increase yield and retention. That happens Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and we've just sent out a tweet with that link. Admissions Live is also sponsored by Scavenger, a Google-funded mobile game about going places, doing challenges, and earning points. Learn how your institution can get started with Scavenger, as well as read case studies and interviews from some of the 400 colleges and universities who've already used the service. You can do that at scavengeru.com. All right, we've got a great show this evening. I have Justin Bayer, the founder of Welcome to College, joining the show tonight. I've also got Kelsey Donohue. She's the president of the Marist Student Ambassador program, and we're going to talk all about campus visits. We have yet to do a campus visit show on Admissions Live, so we are long overdue. And these are both guests that are coming back to the Higher Ed Live network, so hopefully these are two familiar faces for you who tune in often. So I want to bring them onto the show, and it looks like we've got Kelsey on camera first. So Kelsey, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Ashley, for having me.
Absolutely. So I just want to have you give us a little bit of background about what your responsibilities are as president of the Student Ambassador program at Marist, and what are a few roles that students play during the prospective student visit at your program.
Yeah, absolutely. So as ambassador, president of the ambassador program is to organize over our 250 volunteers that we have that are students. Our real role is to help engage with prospective students throughout the Marist community, representing the community here, and helping prospective students throughout the college process, whether this be through tours, meet and greets, shadow days, our overnight program, or even high school visits, and most currently through online through our social media.
Awesome, awesome. So I want to bring Justin up on camera. Justin, again, thanks for coming onto the show, and I know you are in a really awesome location tonight, so say hello for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, we'll bring you up on camera.
We're going live from Marv's garage tonight. I couldn't miss the chance to get Marv into the mix with all of his friends here on Admissions Live and Higher Ed Live Network. So we're excited to be part of the show, as the visit's obviously a critical component to our entire company. It was founded on the importance of the visit, and it's a topic near and dear to our hearts. We're very passionate about, and we're excited to be here tonight.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to have you because I know you've been on a lot of college campuses, and you've worked with visit coordinators from all over the country, so you're going to bring a really great perspective to this show, and I'm looking forward to that. Can you give me a little bit of background from your own higher ed experience and how this visit piece of what we do in admissions became such a powerful thing for you, so much so that you founded a company based around it?
Absolutely. For me, the story all goes back to when I was a student looking at my college options, and I had 5 schools on my list that I had pretty dead set on applying to, and one of the 5 was where I was going to go. And I had a guidance counselor at the time that kept telling me to go up the road about 45 minutes to visit a school called University of Dayton, and I really had no interest of the University of Dayton at the time. I went on the campus tour and literally went from a school I had no interest in to I absolutely knew that's where I had to be for my college years. And went there, had, the best 4 years of my life. My tour guide ended up becoming, a very close friend of mine, a mentor of mine, ended up becoming a tour guide while I was at the university. And that whole experience brought a whole passion for higher ed that I followed a path for a graduate degree at the University of Vermont up in Burlington. And my first job after finishing up that program was to run the tour guide program up at the University of Vermont. And again, spending a couple of years working with ambassadors who, absolutely every day were making such a big impact with students and prospective students on deciding to come to the university. I every day was seeing the power of the visit, and the energy of working with the students never left. And as I ended up pursuing a path into development, which brought me back to the University of Dayton for about 4 years. During that whole time, the idea for Welcome to College was kind of brewing in terms of a domain that I bought back in grad school while I was at UVM. And I always felt that there was a void on the web in regards to one site that solely focused on the visit. So really from a tool that would help users and students be able to keep track of all their visit experiences. And then ultimately, we devised it to a tool that not only helps students, but with the feedback and the data that we're collecting became a very, very valuable tool to help institutions as well be able to gather feedback to help them with the ambassadors, but also help with measuring and managing exactly, how to run the best visit program possible. So that's a little bit of that background. I'm sure we'll get into more in a little bit.
Yeah, and you're bringing a great perspective coming from a large public university at University of Vermont. We've got Kelsey coming from a smaller private college in New York. So you can look at two very different institutions and two, I'm sure, different approaches to the college visit. But Justin, what really is it about the college visit that makes the difference? When we go to buy a house, we're not going to buy a house without doing a walkthrough. We're probably not purchasing a car without doing a test drive. So, what is it about that college visit? And for students that aren't able to come to a campus, what are they missing out on? What would you have missed out on if you didn't make it up to Dayton?
Yeah, I think ultimately there's so many factors that are coming at this when you're in the search. It is one of the largest decisions you'll ever make, and really it's the first really large decision, from when you think about being 18 years old that you're making that impacts your life for the rest of your life. And ultimately, to me, as I've been involved in this, we're big believers on it's that gut feeling. And we truly believe that schools have personalities just like people. And if you do not spend time to understand and explore the culture, the ethos of these places that you're going to go spend your time at for the next 4 years, not only study and get your academic degrees, but all of the outside of the class learning that you'll experience as well, that time on campus really, you feel it. And that's, kind of, what I would say in terms of why it's so critical is you will feel that culture and the ethos of those schools when you're on campus and you spend time with students and faculty.
Yeah, so Kelsey, I see you nodding your head as Justin talks about that gut feeling. And you mentioned a push for social media that's been going on at Marist. And do you think part of that plays into that gut feeling and trying to convey that to students that aren't on campus? Is that something that you're thinking about when you're approaching social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that students are now trying to find if they can fit into the community, and that's so hard to do on a 2.5 hour visit. You try so hard, but you can't physically pick up community and show it to somebody.
Right.
And I think now you're able to do that through social media and really engaging with the student during their visit. And then we're realizing that the relationship doesn't start and end in one visit. And, with social media, you can now continue that engagement and show them how the campus and how the community continues and is considering their prospective students. And we stress that to ambassadors every day.
Awesome. So, Kelsey, thinking back to your college search, What was going through your mind when you were visiting campuses? What was important to you?
I really was at a loss when I was looking for schools. I didn't know if I wanted a big school, small school. I really didn't know where I would fit in, and I'm very lucky that I realized I did need that small school. I wasn't as, focused in high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and it was really through the counselor that I started working with back in junior year that really got me on the path to come to Marist and stuck with me from day one, and which is kind of why I want to become a counselor now. So I guess it really all started back then, and I think that we all need to realize that we leave an impression on students, whether it be junior year or senior year, and that we're helping them throughout the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really exciting to think about the connections that people are making when they're here on campus, not just that connection with people, but as Justin was saying, that connection with the spirit of the campus, that you get that gut feeling that you have a connection there or you don't. I can remember doing a college tour of Western New York with my mom and picking a few colleges along the way. There were some that were on my list. There were others that were just convenient to stop by. And I remember pulling up to one campus in particular that I won't mention, but pulled up to the campus and I wouldn't even get out of the car. So it's that I had that strong of a gut feeling at that point, just pulling up, that nope, we can keep moving, let's go to the next one, this isn't for me. So there is an incredible power to being able to see the community and all of the surroundings and how you get there, and really picture being able to live and be a part of that community for the next 4 years of your life. So I'm glad we've gotten that settled. But I do want to talk about some of the things that are changing. Technology is obviously impacting everything we do in admissions. We see a lot of students doing more research online before they make a visit. We might be able to kind of personalize visits a little bit more, but Justin, you've been on a lot of college campuses and spoken with a lot of these visit coordinators. Are there any new innovative things that you've seen recently?
Some of the things that I love to see, and I'm starting to see more and more of this, would be schools that are embracing parts of their culture and creating kind of unique, different tours around that. So, for example, I think we did a blog not too long ago. Arizona State has a skateboarding tour where skateboarding is an absolutely enormous part of their campus life, and they've created an option that if you want to tour campus with a tour guide on a skateboard, that you're able to do that. There's a college in upstate New York, actually Alfred State University, that has a kind of a unique bicycle that people can sit around, and it's in a circle, and they ride together, and somebody can share stories as they're riding. Which might, and I haven't been there to experience that in person, but I think folks are starting to kind of tie into the unique parts about their campus community and culture and find ways to showcase that, to Kelsey's point earlier about, if it is community, well, how do you kind of showcase community while you're on campus for 2.5 hours? And I think some schools are really kind of tuning into what makes them unique and different and finding ways to showcase it during their visit days.
Yeah, Kelsey, is there anything that I can throw to you that you want to add, things that you've seen that have been innovative, or things that you guys are doing that might be new from the time that I was out on the college search, I might not realize that students are getting when they're out on tour these days?
Well, skateboards and bicycle tours are something that's definitely new to me, and I know that the students that work with ambassadors are now going to be brainstorming some new ideas. So I'm sure we'll come up with something soon.
Yep.
But definitely, I think the new type of tour is coming about, and especially with the emergence of virtual tours and things like that, that it's all about what's new.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're thinking about actually facilitating this campus visit, there's all sorts of different challenges that come with scheduling visitors and getting them to the kinds of meetings they want, and scheduling tour guides and scheduling, the size of the tours and things. There's all sorts of logistics that go into running this kind of program. So Kelsey, if you were designing a college visit program at another institution, what are some of the things that would be must-haves for you coming from this leadership position? What are things that you have found to be absolutely essential?
I think it's really essential to tell tour guides to focus on their experiences and share stories with the families, because that's what the students want to hear. They want to see if they can picture themselves in that story, talking about that internship and that great study abroad experience. Because at the end of the day, the facts and figures that, at some schools tour guides are drilled to say to students and families goes in the ear, in one ear and out the other to families, and they can find it right online. So you really want to take that tour and that time that they have and really be able to share in your experiences and give them the opportunity to picture themselves on campus.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
I would definitely train tour guides that way.
Yeah, so in training tour guides in that sense, were there any things that might have been on a wish list for you? So things you wish you had, or now, of course, you can't not think about skateboard tours, but are there things that, if you were able to design a program all of your own, things that you would absolutely want to incorporate that would, maybe be possible, maybe not be? I don't know. Any kind of like dream wish list items?
Well, I think for the families, it would be the best if they could have such a personalized tour one-on-one with someone of their major who has experienced internships and things like that. But unfortunately, that's not always capable of every campus in terms of students that are available. But it's something that we work on every day to make sure. And when we pick tour guides, that is something that we think of. Are they coming from California? Are they coming? They're a computer science major, or do they have a great internship with something like MasterCard? And they can talk about that with their students, with the students on their tour. So it's something we work for to personalize as much as possible.
Yeah, so Justin, I'll throw that question to you. In your experience at UVM, were there things that while you were working with that program that you thought were absolutely essential, things that maybe now in 2012 are going to be essential, or things that you would see campuses as they're looking forward and how to improve their visit programs that they should be thinking about incorporating?
Yeah, when Kelsey was talking, it reminded me a lot of when I was in Vermont, and we kind of had a slogan when I was there about, every tour, we called it best tour ever, and that, every time you go out, these families, this is their maybe one experience with this institution, and every tour that you give, you've got to be, given your A game tour, if you will. And, it all boils down to kind of quality service in the end. It's like these students are experiencing and they're going on a bunch of these visits. And I think it's those institutions that understand that, the little things, from whether or not, the parking's all set for them when they get there to is, if it's a hot day, when you're in the residence hall and they've been on tour for an hour, do you have water there for them? Or, there's been tours. I love the ones where they give, throughout the tour, you might stop in their dining hall, and I've had dining and food service people bring out trays of cookies for the, very little things I think make lasting impressions in terms of the experience. And I think what I mentioned before in terms of the quality service piece, I think if you look at it from the perspective of, what are ways we can go above and beyond to leave the visitors with an impression that, this place, really, thinks they took the time to make this a very, even if it's with a group, because like as Kelsey said, you can't always get the individual, customized, very personalized attention. But I think there's things that you could do to really, make the visit stand out from a service perspective and kind of look at it from, again, they're visiting, they're taking the time and energy and resources to come see your campus. And what can you be doing to make sure you deliver, the value back in terms of that experience to them from not just from the tour, the energy from the tour guide and the tour itself, but the whole experience in regards to looking at it from quality service perspective.
Yeah, so on that point, and I'll throw this to either one of you, maybe both of you, but when we're talking about service and all of the little things that can really make a visit, make that student feel special, make that parent feel special while they're there on campus. I am right with you, Justin. I think it's the little things that really will make a difference. But what are the little things or maybe the major things that are really going to break that visit? You can't control someone like me who won't even get out of the car at certain campuses, but, I think we kind of have to put ourselves in the visitor's shoes now to think about, what's that breaking point? What's gonna break this visit for our prospective students and for their families? Are there things that you can think of that are challenges that we all face that should be things that we're looking at, especially to make sure that break doesn't happen?
I would say, I've been on so many, and I think Kelsey made this point earlier about a lot of tours. To me, as I go on them now from this perspective, there's still so many that I don't think are taking advantage of sharing what they're really all about, and the tour guides are just spitting out facts.
Uh-huh.
And I can't tell you that, still as I go around, I'll have that tour, and I go on it, and, at the end of the tour guide will say, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, what's everybody thinking about studying? And this is at the end of the tour, and we just went through a whole scripted routine, and I feel like, for those families that just experienced that, I feel like we didn't leave with what is this place really all about. And to Kelsey's point, the storytelling and the ways that you could create an engagement on that tour that isn't just the facts. Yep. And I think those schools that are kind of proud of who they are, and they know who they are, and they can find ways to show who they are, I think are the ones that are doing some really cool stuff and finding kind of creative ways to create a very powerful experience, and then train the tour guides to be able to share that in fun, creative ways to really, get the messages across. So I just think to answer that question,
mm-hmm.
I think the biggest detriment is to not take the time to create an experience that is not just cookie cutter. Yep. I guess, that would be my...
Yeah, Kelsey, what are your thoughts on that?
No, we definitely agree. And one thing that I think we've done well here is we have a tour guide brag book, and it really encompasses all the different internships everyone's had, the different experiences, unique study abroad experiences, which helps tour guides be able to share experiences outside just their close-knit friends. So I don't have to just talk about my housemate or my direct roommate, but I can say, oh, I know someone who's a junior within Ambassadors that had this great internship. And I think that really allows our tour guides to broaden their horizons and be able to pull in other stories. So that's really one of our goals when it comes to, going away from the facts, but still getting those facts across, but through stories. So when I talk about housing, I talk about, my unique random housemate experiences and things like that and how we came about. So
yeah, I think that anecdotal information, I have to agree, is so important. And, I talk a lot when I talk about marketing at all for enrollment is really owning who you are as an institution and knowing who you are. And I had a lot of trouble with my institution allowing myself to kind of geek out the way RIT should be geeking out because I'm not a super geek. I am, but I try not to be. And so in our marketing materials, it takes me a while to get to the point that I want to talk about the humans versus zombies competition on campus, or to talk about our Quidditch team, or those kinds of things that I personally probably wouldn't have identified with as a prospective student. But I know that there are many prospective students out there that will identify with that piece of our university. So letting your freak flag fly, as I like to say it when I talk about marketing, is really important, because that's what's going to make you unique. That's what's going to make you stand out at your institution. And students should feel empowered to do that out on tour too. But I love the brag book. That is an awesome takeaway, and something that I think is important to share in a place that you can share anecdotes with each other. That's a great thing that you guys are doing. So I want to talk a little bit about how we're rethinking the campus visit and looking forward. And again, this is kind of something that we might think about as far as our wish list. So there might be things that we haven't quite yet gotten to technically be able to pull off, but I want to think a little bit about those campus visitors that or prospective students that can't make the trip. And prime example, if we're talking, if we want to talk in terms of University of Vermont and Marist, being institutions in the Northeast where we're seeing student enrollments on the decline and a boom in students in the Southwest and Texas and California, those students are absolutely looking at institutions in the Northeast, but they're not able to make it there. So how do we translate this campus visit experience for these students in a virtual way? That's something that I'm really interested in exploring and trying to deliver. So there are some, big innovators out there, and the technology is there to do live streaming. There's other innovations that you can do on campus too. So what are some things that we can do for visitors that come when the office is closed? These are some of the things that I want to get your perspective on. So either of you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've seen some unique stuff, and I think there's a lot of stuff that continues to evolve and come out in regards to engaging visitors virtually. And one of my favorite things that I remember seeing is what St. Michael's College created with their YouTube QR code campaign around campus, so that if somebody did come up to a building and it might have been off hours and the tour wasn't there, they were able to kind of follow through a YouTube video, and then the videos actually they were able to decide at the end of the videos which was their next spot that they wanted to check out. So I think there's some really cool stuff like that that's happening. I know. With the rise of virtual on the mobile applications and iPads and things like that, you're able to really, as Kelsey mentioned before, if you just want to come and get the facts and kind of get that experience, you can get all that off a lot of these virtual tours now, where they've got even, some of them have a person there guiding you through them. Others have just the text and pictures and things like that. But I think there's a lot of exciting things to still come on that front of the visit, especially with live streaming video and things like that, where there's opportunity to really find more exciting ways to engage on that piece of the process.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Justin is saying, and I think actually RIT is a shining example of how you've been able to take that community feel and those students' stories, but still apply it to showing off the campus and showing off the facilities and where students are studying, where they're eating, things like that. Different like the communications studios, things like that you can have through the day in the life videos, or highlighting 5 students and say, here's an iPhone, go and shoot what your day is like, or hang out with your friends in the cafeteria. And it's showing off the campus online, accessible to anybody, but also giving that student interaction and that community feel at the same time.
Yeah, well, thank you for the plug. But, you're hitting on a point that I think is so important. When you come to a campus, you come to get the real feel, and a lot of times when we're producing things for the web, it's highly polished, highly marketed. It's been looked at by vice presidents, and it's something that's been vetted over and over by so many people. And what students are really looking for is that real, authentic sense of what it is to be on campus. And I think the only way to do that is to get that student-to-student interaction, allow students to give the real story, the good and the bad. Because if you're not giving both sides of it, you're not really showing the full picture. And I think if you're not showing that on your own website, you're going to send people then to places like College Confidential and these other sites where they can get other kinds of peer reviews. So thanks for the shout out. But I think we're all onto something there. So, we talked a lot about customer service and, while we're wrapping up tonight, I want to make sure that we're touching on other points that you want to make. But Justin, I want to throw something to you about the evaluation process and going through the daily visits and the importance of that. And it's something that I know, in my experience, not all institutions are doing. But can you talk a little bit about the importance of evaluating and what kind of results you can get out of that?
Yeah, the evaluation part is one of the pieces for us that we've seen where there's still a ton of room for growth as well. And I think, if you are taking the quality service and customer service pieces of the visit seriously, then the only way to really understand if you're meeting the needs is to evaluate and understand from your visitors, how you're doing on a regular basis, and not only from ways to enhance your program, but I've seen some universities doing some amazing stuff. And Kelsey, I'd love your feedback on this. Is really using the feedback as a tool to help the tour guides in their own professional development in terms of getting constant feedback, because if you had a way to show an employer or future employer that when I did this role as a tour guide for Marist, I had 90% of my tours said I was great at public speaking, or however you can craft or what you need to craft from professional development, the evaluations can help you do that. And I think there's a lot of places that, even from their own training and tour guides, there's a lot of room for growth in regards to the feedback. A lot of times, people just have this feeling, oh, we're doing a great job with our visits. We don't necessarily need to get the feedback. Well, I think the constant and regular nature of evaluation only helps you kind of become the best and really help all your staff and tour guides in terms of developing, any skill sets or anything that you could be doing better that you might learn through the evaluations. But Kelsey, I love your feedback on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the benefits of being a tour guide, I think we all know that not every tour guide is going to go on to higher education. And the perfect thing about it is that there's so many transferable skills. Public speaking, plenty of my friends who have gone on, graduated, didn't sweat job interviews, didn't sweat grad interviews because they have the skills for it, and that's the benefits of our job. But I think in terms of feedback, we do have your regular evaluation form that families can fill out willingly, send back in, or hand in that day, which does give feedback, mostly always positive. But then I think another way that's really great is we give out our email addresses at the end of every tour. And I know that I receive a ton of emails after a weekend of doing tours that giving me feedback. Obviously this is going to be the positive feedback, but I think that really shows, first of all, that the job is incredibly rewarding. And then also it kind of keeps that motivation to keep going, and it shows that you're doing things well. So when we take that and also send out those emails with little snippets of positive feedback to all the tour guides. So we have them forward the emails to our advisor, which is great.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for those highlights. And I want you, again, to think of any kind of closing topics that we may not have covered or things that you want to make sure we absolutely fit in. But one thing that I want to make sure that we make a point of is we do so many things as admissions counselors. There are so many other hats that we wear, and we're on the road almost half the year. We're closed in a little cave reading applications another quarter of the year, but year-round there are visitors, and very, very, very rarely does an admissions office close. So, coming back to basics and really understanding the customer service points and the service that we're doing to our prospective students and their parents and their family members that are bringing them to our campus is so important. And in 2012, I think it's important to really think about identifying those things that you do best on your campus and making that available to your prospective students online, and using things like social media, using technology like live streaming can really help you expand upon the daily visit that you're doing so well and that you've invested so much in. So I want to throw it one more time to you guys for your closing wise words for tonight. Who wants it?
Kelsey, I'll let you start.
Oh, thank you so much, Justin. Well, first of all, I want to invite Marv to Marist. Maybe we can show you how our tour guides do it here. I think that would be great. We would love to see you on campus.
Actually, Marv is planning an East Coast trip in November, so that might be a possibility to stop on our way. So
well, you're always welcome here. We'd love it.
Awesome, thank you.
I guess that doesn't come as my last words of advice, but then also I would just to say that, I mean, our tour guides, our ambassadors are the heart and soul of our office. I mean, every day I love my job. I love all the students I work with. I wouldn't know half of them possibly just because I'm an upperclassman, and this job has introduced me to amazing people. And I think that every office has to realize the importance of their students and their tour guides because, I mean, hey, we don't do it for the money. We love it here. So, words of advice to others.
Great.
And I just end with a thought that I just had in terms of kind of 3 key points of the visit program. And I think we kind of summed them up throughout the show, but how important storytelling is, being passionate is, and being real is. And I think the real part is, remember that not everybody that comes on your campus may be the best fit. So yes, you're in a role where you're recruiting and you want to, share all the great things, but at the same point, there are so many amazing options out there that I think it is also about, like, for example, it comes down to that fit. And for that student, that gut feeling, it may not be, for example, some people for the University of Dayton, for where I fell in love with, may not be their fit, or Marist, or University of Vermont. They might go and there might be things that don't totally connect. And I think it's that being real side of it in terms of what this is all about. Because in the end, for those that go and then transfer after a year or decide not to stay for that experience, I think, ultimately, I'm a big believer in there is a school for everybody, and it's finding that fit for you and going through this process. And so that's something that I was thinking about throughout this show. And then my last thing was, I said it on Higher Ed Live a couple months ago, but for those that are watching that are, in charge of their visitor programs or the student ambassadors, there's an organization that I learned of this past year called CIVSA. It's CIVSA, and it stands for the Collegiate Information and Visitor Center Association. This is an incredible group of people. For those that are passionate about the tour and the visit, their show was in Denver last year. It's going to be in Alexandria, Virginia this year. But I strongly encourage those, if you're not members of it yet, to check it out. It was like being in a room of 500 former tour guides or tour guides in one place. And I know certain parts of the country have regions, and I think New England has a students and admissions forum. I'm not sure if New York does or not, but CISVA brought schools, big and small, together, all passionate about the visit. And I left there thinking, man, I wish I had known about that years ago. So I share that just as another pointer for those that are into the visit.
Awesome tidbit. Well, I have to thank you both again so much for coming on the show. This, like I said, long overdue talking about the campus visit tonight. So thank you so much for coming on. And as we wrap up tonight, I do want to plug next week's show. Next week we have Robert Patterson. He's the former director of admissions at Stanford, and he's going to be joining me with his new colleague, Gil Rogers at Zinch.com and Chegg. So they've been busting out a whole lot of research lately out of the Zinch house. So I'm curious to talk about how Robert feels about the direction that research is going and present some of their findings next week. And you know where to find us. Every week we are on higheredlive.com, 7 p.m. Tuesday nights. So we hope to see you there. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Ashley.